How did you leave your job? Because a lot of people listening right now have jobs they want to leave, they don't know what to do.
And why am I even doing this? It's misery creates movement. I get my checks from this side business that I'd accidentally started in my real estate. I had like $86,000.
I would say when you're trying to balance it all is having standards in each aspect of your life that you will not go below.
The first year they call you crazy, the second year they call you lucky, and the third year they call you for advice. And like people think like the quitting your job story is like so sexy, but a lot of people that...
What's going on, wealth builders? Today I've got somebody who left the corporate America world just a couple of years ago and went on his own as an entrepreneur, buying real estate, doing podcasts, starting a community, and a whole bunch of other cool things. I got Brian Luebben. What's up, man?
What's up, man? What's going on? We are on podcast number 3 today. This is like 4 hours of podcasting.
Well, you know,
it's a hell of a Thursday.
Your energy's still good, so you're good.
Dude, let's go, man. Yeah, it's what we're paid to bring, right?
Yeah. So tell me about this, dude, because I don't know what the corporate life's like. You know, how did you leave your job? Because a lot of people listening right now have jobs they want to leave, they don't know what to do.
Well, if you want to know what the corporate life's like, we can do about 6 hours of PowerPoint presentation, and that will kind of give you an idea.
Yeah.
But no, it's like today's a really cool thing for me. It's a really cool season of my life, and it's really cool for the listeners because I'm kind of in the middle ground, you know, where it's just like me and you were just saying, you were just a guest on my podcast for the second time, and so you crushed the first time. So I'm excited to introduce people to you again. But it's just like, you're a few years ahead of me. You're 3 to 5 years ahead of me, and I'm 3 to 5 years ahead of a lot of the people that are listening. Yeah. So it's a cool season to be in where you feel a lot of gratitude for being able to be out and you can remember what it's like. But then also it's like you have an arm's reach to where I could be able to have conversations with you, and I could be able to have conversations with other people that are at a really high level. Yeah. And you could play the game and you could talk the language. So in March of 2022, so basically to bring it back, I graduated college, went to corporate America.
What year was that?
Oh, dude, 2019, I think. No, 2017, I graduated college.
Okay.
And then I went to corporate America, and I worked my way up to a Fortune 500 sales organization. I was number 8 out of 5,079. So I made it to the top of the sales team. And then they were like, okay, we're going to promote you to sales manager, to VP of sales, and then eventually SVP, so senior vice president. So
what were you making?
Climbing the org chart, $250,000.
$250,000 a year selling what?
$250,000 selling uniforms. Oh. Yeah, so selling uniforms. So people would get dirty. So a lot of these, like, we're in an industrial park in your office here. A lot of people are like working, get dirty in factories and stuff. So I'd sell them their uniforms and we'd wash them.
Got it.
So the least sexy way to learn sales, but I was grateful to learn sales that way because I learned how to sell anything to anyone. Right. Right. Because you're working with anyone from an owner of a grease shop to I ink deals with Coca-Cola, with Chick-fil-A across the entire country. By the time I finished, I was the top guy. And so I made it to the top. And then I was just like, dude, this is it. Like, I want to go get a Rolex. I want to get a sports car, and I want to kind of keep doing this thing. But then I looked at my boss's boss, and so it was my current VP of sales. And I was just like, dude, you suck. Like, you know, and you see them and you don't think about it. Because a lot of people that are listening to this are working corporate jobs, and they want to be doing what you're doing. They want to be wholesale, and they want to be flipping, they want to be investing in real estate. And they just don't have enough pain yet to actually do it because they know what to do because they already listened to your show, but they're not doing it.
Well, they got golden handcuffs.
Yeah, exactly. And so they don't know what they don't know. And so that's a good exercise out the gate for people to do is I looked at my boss's boss and I was like, I'm you in 5 years. And that guy, like, I know how important like health is to you. I know how important relationships are to you in your marriage. And I was like, dude, this guy's on his second marriage. This guy is like completely, all his hair is falling out. He's eating donuts and he's on Zoom calls every 15 minutes. Yeah. He makes $100,000 more than me. I was like, so that's going to be my reality. And I decided I didn't want to do that. So I started planning the escape. And I was just realizing when I was looking at the cash flow numbers that you and I talked about on the podcast, the co-living is a better cash flow vehicle than traditional single family rentals with one tenant, right? Yep. However, I was doing the math and I was like, wait a second. I make $20,000 a month. This is slow. How the hell am I going to pull this off in any meaningful, reasonable amount of time?
I need 20 of these.
I need 20 of them. Well, yeah, dude. If you're making $200 a door, I was making 2,000. Yeah. If you're making 200 a door, you need 50 of them to even get the 10,000
at least.
And so I was just like, how can I figure out and learn how to do other stuff? Like, how do I get in the rooms with these people that are doing the big stuff, the millionaires? And so for me, I was just like, why not just start up a podcast? And I tell everybody that this podcast interviews millionaires only, exclusively. And that's where I started Action Academy podcast. So I started in October 2021, and I'd already bought a few properties by then. I had $4,000 a month coming into cash flow, and I started up that podcast, and that ended up becoming two different businesses. The business I run today, which is a community off the back end of it. But in that day, what I was doing is I was discussing different investing stuff. I was talking about different brokers I was using. I was talking about different masterminds that I was paying for. I was talking about different coaches I was hiring. And then people started joining all these different things I was talking about.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. Like, congratulations. Like, go do it. And then those companies would come to me and say, hey, like, we'll give you a cut. I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, it's called an affiliate. I was like, oh, sick, dude. That's awesome.
Sick.
Yeah. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't realize what I had in front of me. And for me, that ended up being like $12,000 to $15,000 a month coming in from affiliates of me on my podcast with guys. I had like 4,000 followers on Instagram, and I was getting like maybe 10,000 downloads a month on the show.
Yeah.
It was a small show at the time. But my audience was so high quality that they were buying these $10,000, $12,000 things. And that's what allowed me to originally get out of my job. So what happened was January 2022, I am working my job. I get my bonus checks, and I'm like, all right, I'm leaving my freaking job this year, come hell or high water. I'm like, I'm getting out of here. And all of a sudden, I get my bonus check. I get my checks from this side business that I'd accidentally started in my real estate. I had like $86,000. It's like, wait a second, this is sick. I was like, let's see if we can do it again. And then February hit, we did it again. March hit, I did it again. I got like 70,000. And so in March of 2022, I was like, all right, I'm going to save up 6 months of living reserves. I'm going to like keep growing this cash flow vehicle that I just got, redeploy all the profits back into real estate later on. I'm just going to quit this freaking job. And so I quit, and I turned in my 2 weeks notice. I said I'm out in March. Then I did the next best logical thing, which is tell my friends and family that I'm going to go travel full-time around the world. And of course, they all supported that. They told me I was the biggest idiot ever, which I'd love your perspective on too, by the way, if friends and family telling you how dumb you are.
Yeah.
The first year they call you crazy, the second year they call you lucky, and the third year they call you for advice. And so I'm on my third year now, and that's rang very true for me, and that's advice that I give to people listening. So travel full-time around the world, and while I was doing that, like, I got everything I ever wanted. I lived in the Greek islands for a month. I lived all across Europe. I lived in Latin America and Brazil, and I just felt freaking empty inside. And so, like, there's so many different directions that we can take this, but I just did not have the sense of fulfillment that I used to have because I associated myself, my identity was somebody that does hard shit, does hard things.
Yeah.
And so when you stop winning, you are no longer a winner. And I wasn't winning anymore. And so I was trying to rack my brain about what business I could start. And so I was just like, why don't I just go from me to we? My DMs were full of people asking me, how'd you do that? I want to go travel and quit my job. How did you do that? And I was like, well, I'll just coach you for free. Ended up coaching 100 people for free, asked them what they needed, built an online course, shut that down a month later, and then started up a community. Which, you've done the same thing. Like I don't really think the courses are the answer anymore. I think communities are. Launched Action Academy Community January 2023. Now we do $2 million a year top line with 50% EBITDA margins, and we're scaling that thing up, and we got 340 members, and now it's a blast, dude. I'm redeploying those profits into private equity businesses and boutique hotels.
Nice.
So that's my jam.
That's a long, well, not a long, but a journey that a lot of these corporate guys could aspire to go to. You asked about family. I think, friends, family, they're always going to be skeptical when you do something new and you kind of break away from the mold of your friends or your family, right? Like, I'm sure all your corporate America guys were like, bro, like, that's not smart, whatever, right?
Yeah.
You just got to deal with it. I remember my mom, like, my parents have supported me throughout my whole life. I played baseball. They supported me, all these things. But for whatever reason, I remember when I started getting into flipping houses in 2015, my first deal was kind of in the ghetto. And I was like, I'm going to buy this deal. And she's like, you don't want to buy in that area.
You're going to get shot.
Yeah, like, it's just not safe. It's a bad area. It's not going to sell. And I was like, well, the numbers look good. Like, there's property selling in this area at this price, and the numbers all make sense. And it's not like I'm going to live in this thing. Yeah, maybe I'll get shot if I live here, but I'm not living in it. And I was like, Mom, I respect your opinion, but I'm just going to do it anyway. And then, 60 days later it sold. I made 25 grand. I was like, all right, that was good. I'll buy another ghetto home. I don't care. Like, Let's just keep this thing going. So I think you have to have enough conviction, but that's where I think things like communities help. Like if you're starting a new, you didn't necessarily do that. Well, maybe you did.
I was basically by myself when I did that.
That's the hard part.
But then I started learning the importance, like through the hard way of being like, is this the stupidest thing I've ever done? And like people think like the quitting your job story is like so sexy, but a lot of people that are thinking about this, and that's the reason they listen to this show, is they're working jobs and they want to be like you. They want to be like either traveling or they want to be doing something full time on their own. And when I left that job, dude, it's like, it's so sexy on paper, but for me, I almost went to the hospital 3 times because I was having panic attacks.
Whoa. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I also, for anyone listening right now, I am just out of my own curiosity, comment right now on YouTube if you're watching, if you currently work a job and you want to leave. Like, I'm curious how many of you watch this show are currently like, that's you.
Employed.
Yeah, you're employed and you don't want to be. You want to be your own boss.
Math checks out.
Yeah, I want to just know. So let me know in the comments and maybe even put what you do for a living so everybody can see. And it might help everyone in the comments. But yeah, tell me about the panic attacks. Why?
So you can speak to this too, man. Like different seasons, versions of you have to die. And for new versions of you to be reborn. Mm-hmm. And so I was killing an identity of like, that was my thing. I'd made it to the mountaintop. So I hit diamond level, rep of the year, president's club, sales rep of the year, rookie of the year, all these different awards. And I had this trophy case. Yeah. And that was my identity up until that point. And I thought that when you made it to that mountaintop, that there was supposed to be like a reward. Like you hit that promotion, you hit millionaire status, you hit $1 million a year in your business. Like, you think there's supposed to be a mariachi band or something that's like playing. Yeah. And you get to the top of the mountain and you just realize you're in this like never ending mountain range that just keeps growing and growing. And so I felt, kind of robbed. I was like, I did the right stuff. Why do I not feel good? And then you have everyone in your ear telling you all the ways that you're going to fail. And so for me, I do what's called catastrophizing. And that's something I'm working on now where I just imagine all the worst case scenarios. And so I was just like, I'm going to go broke. I'm going to go bankrupt. I'm going to come, worst case scenario, crawling with my tail between my legs and come back to that job and have everyone in the office point and laugh at me and be like, oh, dude, you idiot. We told you you'd be back. But then that's when I realized that my fear wasn't even a failure. It was the appearance of failure. Yeah. So it's just like people don't actually care about failure. They care about other people thinking that they failed. Yeah. And so I was just like, wait a second. Let's do an experiment here, and this will help all the listeners and all the people watching on the YouTube videos. If you just literally realize that the worst case scenario is you just go back and get another job, then that means that your worst case scenario, your living hell, is your present day reality. Yeah. And so that's the same reaction I had. So I went from being like, thinking that I was having a freaking heart attack. My arm was numb, cold sweats. I was like, tell my girlfriend at the time, I was like, we got to call 911. And she's like, no, let's breathe. We're going to be okay. And I called a mentor of mine. Thank God that I had one at that point. I had one mentor and I called him. His name was Mike. I said, dude, I'm scared. I'm terrified. Yeah. And he said, first year's going to be rough. Entrepreneurship. Yeah. It's like, it's going to be rough. I'm not going to lie to you. He's like, but afterwards, you're going to make it through. You're going to realize it was worth it. And you're going to be telling everybody else that it's okay. Yeah. And so that is what happened. But that quote, it got that reaction out of you, me too. Where I was just like, okay. My living hell, my worst case scenario is what I'm doing tomorrow on Tuesday. Yep. And so that's got me out.
It's funny. So I was flipping couches as my
That's hilarious to think back to. Yeah, you were flipping couches.
That was my W-2, right?
Slinging the balls, dude.
Bro, that's all I did. Friggin' hit bombs and flip couches. So, I go into flipping houses, and this is like at the end of 2014, I'm like devising this plan. Yeah. And I'm just thinking about how I'm going to do it, right? And, I get my first deal under contract like January of 2015. And at the time, I didn't have money, so I maxed out all my credit cards for 50 grand. And, I'm buying this house in the ghetto, and my mom's telling me not to do it. And by the way, she has authority. She'd been a realtor for over 20 years. So, like, it's actually listening to somebody who knows real estate.
Made it even more terrifying, right?
Yeah. And I've never heard anyone call it catastrophize it. But I did do that just like naturally, but not in a fear-based way. I literally looked at it and I was like, well, let's play out the scenarios here. Scenario one, which I'm hoping for, is this thing sells and I make, 20, 25 grand, that would be amazing. That's what the projections look like if everything goes clean. As we already talked about the end, but it did go clean. It went way better than I even thought. We sold it in less than 60 days.
Yeah.
Made 25. I was like, holy crap. Like, if every deal's like that, this is going to be great. They're not. But I think that's what God need, like, just to really give me that faith and to keep going. But anyways, I'm like, all right, that's scenario one. Like, we crush it. Scenario two is we just kind of like break even, or maybe make a little bit of money or lose a bit, something goes, I'm just not seeing something. It doesn't sell for what I think. Maybe there's some unknown repair thing that I just can't see, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, if that scenario happens, I'll still be happy because I'll have done a deal and I'll have learned and I'll build confidence. So I'm okay with that scenario as well. And then there's scenario three, let's just say the worst case scenario. And, as I looked at it, I was like, in scenario three, the worst case is, I can't sell it. I get foreclosed on, or I have to sell it at a loss and whatever. And I was like, in like a catastrophic scenario, which was like really even impossible for like $100,000 home, I'm like, well, I guess maybe I declare bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. And at the time I'm 25 and I'm like, I'm married. We've been married for a year, but I'm like, if I went bankrupt at 25, well, number one, I'm still broke right now. So yeah, I'm like, either way, like I only have 50 grand because I maxed out credit card. It's not like I'd saved $50,000 and worked so hard and did all this. Like I didn't. I'm like, I'm just taking out credit cards and either way I'm broke.
Correct.
So I'm like, if it all fails, I just declare bankruptcy, worst case, and the 50 grand just, gets wiped out. And 2 years from now, my life is normal. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I can live with that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I was like, I can live with all three scenarios. And I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I just was like, I think based on the numbers in this deal, at least one or two is going to happen. Not that. But even if that did happen, I can live with it.
Have you heard of Fear Setting by Tim Ferriss?
No.
So it's basically what you just did. So it's where you are like, all this fear and all this anxiety and all this worry comes from like your subconscious mind. And so if you bring it up to conscious and you realize how silly it is, then you're like, oh, okay, I can keep pushing through regardless of the fear that I feel.
Yeah.
And so what Tim talks about is you literally take a sheet of paper and you divide it into 3 columns and you put worst case scenario on the left, you put likelihood of that happening, like the probability in the middle. And on the right, you say, this is what I'm going to do when this happens. And so for me, you kind of did that. So for me, I wrote down, okay, so I quit my job, travel around the world, like worst case scenarios. Okay, cool. I get robbed, I get stabbed, I go bankrupt, I run out of money, like I get kidnapped, like stupid stuff, right? And you put like 0 to 10, like 1 to 10. What is the likelihood of this happening? And then you write it down. And you're like, okay, 1, maybe 2, depends if where I'm at in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
And so then it's the next part is the thing that really changed the game for me is I was like, okay, what do I do when that happens? And so like, okay, cool. I'm gonna bring an extra phone. I'm gonna bring my old MacBook just in case.
Yeah.
Like my phone gets stolen or my Mac gets stolen. I have a backup.
Yeah.
What happens if I go bankrupt? I literally just use a credit card, go live on my mom's couch back home, and get another 6-figure sales job. And so when I actually logically did that, we've ran that exercise with hundreds of investors now, or hundreds of entrepreneurs that are working corporate jobs. Dude, it helps so much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I even do that today because you still have problems. And so, I've done that when I've been in really bad situations in business. And I'm like, all right, we're going to try and solve this. And the best case is we get it solved and like, it's all good. But let's say we can't solve it. And let's just say it's going to hit the fan. Mm-hmm. What happens next? And so you start to run through the worst case. Because like you said, most people just fear the unknown. They fear the worst case and they never actually
define it.
Yeah. And so I like to just literally visualize I'm in it. And I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen to my reputation. This is what's going to happen to the business. This is that. Okay, let's put myself in this setting, and I'll visualize it. My eyes are closed for those on podcasts, and I'm like, all right, so I'm in this situation. What would I do if I was in this spot right now? And I just already start figuring it out. Well, okay, if I'm in this spot, then I would do this move, then this move, then this move, and then okay, I would rebuild this way. This is my next move. I'd sell this. And I already start playing it out. And then by the time like the chess pieces are done in my mind, I'm like, huh, okay, that's not that bad.
Figure outable.
And you're like, I hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want that to happen, but I've come to terms of what, you know, it's all good if it doesn't.
And it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Like it just looks different. Problems don't go away. They just look different. Different levels, different devils.
Yeah.
And, so,
then, you know, even with that, it gives you the ability to now take maybe a bigger risk or something else to try and fix it, where you're like, all right, if that's the worst case by, you know, just staying on this path, basically anything I do to avoid that is better.
Correct.
So like,
yeah,
let's go and actually do something and try to make this work. And if my swing doesn't work, it's all good. Like I was inevitably headed down that path anyways.
Yeah, and even when things do go south, which, you know, like we're talking about business here, and anyone that's been in the game long enough, like they felt some pain.
Yeah.
Right? But then we've got another quote where it's like you lose that deal that you think that you have, and you put all these months and months or years into this deal, and then all of a sudden it backs out at the last second, seller gets cold feet, or you're buying a business and all of a sudden it just disappears at the last second, somebody else scoops it up, or an institutional buyer, and then you're just like, well, what the hell? Like, what happened here?
Yeah.
And a good quote that's gotten me through some of the rough times, where you're just like, what am I even doing? Why am I even doing this? It's misery creates movement. And so I'm just like, a lot of the reasons that people, you know, are not taking action and they have what's called analysis paralysis is, like you said, the golden handcuffs. They just are too comfortable, where they have no reason to move. They haven't had enough pain yet to warrant movement. So what that happens in real estate is, you know, your job is just too good. It's too cushy.
Yeah.
But then it's the same thing that you think about when it comes to health. Like you have that uncle or that aunt that's obese and they're not losing weight. And then all of a sudden somebody in the family has a health scare, and all of a sudden Aunt Karen just lost 100 pounds. Because there was like, oh, pain, stimulus, response. I'm going to go get to work. She always knew what to do.
How did these corporate guys who are making money create pain?
So normally it's created for them. So you can either proactively plan or you can react to when it inevitably happens.
Layoffs, whatever.
Yeah. So layoffs, or you start to like zoom out. And like, that's what I did, is I kind of projected in the future. I was like, this is what my life is going to be. I am going to be selling uniforms at 45 years old. I was like 25 at the time. Like for 20 years, this is what my life is going to be. No hate to people that are doing it. But I was just like, dude, I'm more than this. Like I've got a bigger and higher calling. Like I got to get out of here.
And obviously you liked traveling and all that stuff. And you're like, I can't do that doing this.
Correct. And so I literally went on a trip. So I've got it tattooed on my chest. I have Cinque Terre from Italy tattooed on my chest, which is northern Italy. It's got a very Amalfi Coast vibe.
Yeah.
And what happened was I took my PTO. I had 2 weeks of PTO, and I took a week of it to go out and see Italy for the first time. And nobody would go with me, so I went by myself.
Whoa.
And that was in 2019.
That's weird.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I'm a weirdo, man. And so I go out there and I'm just like, all right, cool. Well, like, this is a life-changing moment. This is what the rest of the world looks like. I was from Chattanooga, Tennessee, dude. Like, I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, just wearing a suit and a tie every day, just staying in my zip codes.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what the rest of the world looks like.
Were you like door-to-door sales?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I was
going to these companies trying to sell their uniforms?
Yeah. So it started off just door knocking. Like, they put you, they'll say, okay, learn this stuff, ride routes, you know, at 5 a.m. and then go out and start generating leads and generating appointments. And that's how I cut my teeth.
Wow.
And I wouldn't change a second of it.
Yeah, you learned sales.
Yeah.
Great.
And you learn it in every single way. But then what that trip taught me was, I was like, I came back and then I was out of PTO basically, and I had to miss a friend's wedding.
Yeah. And
that was enough pain. And then during COVID hit, I won all the awards, and they said, we're not going to pay you the bonus that we said we are going to pay you for $82,000. I was like, that'll do it. I was like, I'm out of here, buddy. I was like, that's double my salary. And I was like, so you can just choose not to pay me. I was like, I'm going to go make my own money.
Yeah.
And so that was the misery that created movement for me. I was like, dude, I am freaking out of here.
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes people, you can either wait for those moments. So that was your pain. You can wait for those moments to happen, or you can proactively plan.
So it sounded like you were kind of doing both.
A little
like
bit.
You were already thinking about it, proactively doing it, and then there was a straw that just finally
broke the camel's back. Yeah.
Oh, you're going to take my 82K. All right, dude. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm out of here. Yeah, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm never working for anybody else again. And then from that point, it's just like now I'm like the least employable person.
Yeah.
Because if you just Google me, every single thing is how to quit your job. And so I was like, well, guess I got to make this entrepreneurship thing work.
Yeah. You ever think about that though? Like now, like obviously it's working, but let's just say you had your worst case scenario and it's like it all blew up. Like, would your worst case still involve you going back to the job?
Today?
Yeah.
No, I would never like, you'd have, no, I mean, the same, like, there's no chance. Like, I would figure out, because now it's like, once you get to the level where you understand how to make $100,000, you have that skill set for life.
Yeah.
And then once you get to the level,
just go back to making some new business thing.
Yeah. Once you get to the level where you know how to make $1 million, you can make $1 million. So it's like, if you just took everything away from me and then just threw me in the jungle, I'll figure out how to make $1 million business again. And like you know how to make $10 million businesses.
Yeah.
I don't have that skill set, yet, but I will.
Yeah.
That's why I come fly to Vegas and do podcasts with you. So.
Go see it in action.
Yes, sir.
So with that, you know, you talked about, you know, traveling and all that good stuff and this lack of fulfillment. Why do you think you were unfulfilled having like lived out your dream? I mean, you were making money from affiliates. You had some rentals that were making you some money. You're traveling the world, doing everything you wanted to do. I mean, you were working you were building a podcast, so why wasn't it fulfilling?
I mean, yeah, I was doing, you know, podcast episode. I was doing like 2 podcast interviews a week. But besides that, I was just like, all right, I've kind of got nothing to do. So I'm just going to go drink on the beach. I'm going to lay in the sun. I'm going to go, like, I was in a relationship at the time. I was like, we're going to go out at night, you know. And then after 3 weeks, I was just like, all right, now what? What are we doing now? And then also it's like, you start trying to talk to your friends, even when you're in the same time zone, you start texting your friends and your friends are all at work.
Right.
So then I don't have anyone to talk to or hang out with. Right. And so I'm just like, okay, cool. Well, now what? Right. And so the biggest thing that I say is, you know, once you have the financial ability to leave your job, you lack the emotional and spiritual ability to leave your job or to leave work, we'll say, not your job. Because you become a new version of you. You become a new person. And like I said, that old version of you has to die, and the new version of you that's born is somebody that's capable of building your own business, of running your own business. And so at that point, I was just like, I've only won my entire life. And now I'm not getting that, you know, it was partially status driven.
Right.
Like, you don't have people behind you parading and clapping you on the back saying how awesome you are, like what was in my job. And I was just like, I need to work on hard things. So people think that they want to just get this passive income, the $10,000, $20,000 a month, and then they're just going to just go travel around the world and do nothing. But the reality is you probably work harder, you know, because you never had a corporate job, but like you work harder today than you probably ever worked before because you're living in your purpose and your passion.
Yeah.
So I call it passionate income. So that's why I wrote a book on it. I wrote From Passive to Passionate, how to quit your job, grow your wealth, turn your passions into profits, because nobody was talking about what happens after the passive income. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, passionate income. And the Japanese call it like ikigai, which is the intersection of what you're great at, what the market needs, and then like what you love. So you combine all the things together, and then that's like your purpose. Got it. And so I was just like, well, I got to go figure that out and start working on something again. So I work more today than I ever worked in my corporate job, and I love every minute of it. Right.
Yeah, I think I've never heard of that Japanese term. I mean, the one I always hear is Kaizen.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, for those who don't know, it's just like the pursuit of like continuous improvement.
Oh, I like that too.
And, you know, I think Toyota made it famous and others, but it's true. Like I'm thinking about what the marketplace needs and problems and what it wants and things I like doing. But in the end, what I really am pursuing is just constant improvement.
Growth.
Yeah.
You need to be progressing towards set goals that are difficult. Mm-hmm. And then that's where your fulfillment and that's where happiness comes from. I think like truly, because I started asking these questions, like first level is financial freedom, then it's time freedom, and then it's like what I call mental and emotional freedom. Mm-hmm. So like the finances are taken care of. Then level 2, now you have control of your calendar, because you know a lot of entrepreneurs that are multimillionaires that still don't have control over their calendar. Right. They can't just like disappear on a Tuesday and golf in the middle of the day if they want to. Yeah. Because they have obligations. Yep. So it's like once you have time freedom, then you have time and what's called margin, where you have clear space in your calendar and you can go think about things. Yeah. So I was thinking like, what is happiness for me? Like what actually is it? And happiness isn't the accomplishment of goals. I think happiness is found in the pursuit of big goals. And so like, I think you and I and people that are listening to this podcast are just cut different to where we are not content, and we won't ever be content unless we're pursuing a really big, hairy, audacious goal. And that doesn't necessarily need to be in business. It could also be in our spirituality. It could be in our family. It could be in our fitness. That's why I see Jesse Itzler running 100-mile marathons, because he has to do stuff.
Yeah.
Right. He's already financially good.
Yeah.
So I don't think it goes away.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think we were talking about on your podcast just this idea of once you start making more money than maybe you're accustomed to, you know, you get lifestyle increase, you start to get a little content, and you lose a little bit of drive. And I think that that's a whole new factor that's hard, because basically it puts you back into the golden handcuffs.
Ironically.
Yeah, because you're now back to, oh man, like I built this thing and this is great and I'm making great money. It's time to enjoy some of it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with enjoying it. What I've realized in my career is I go through grinds and I guess levels of just, let's call it contentness.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, all right, dude, it's time to grow. And this, I mean, this could be months, this could be years. It could be, you know, the seasons can vary. And then there are times where you're like, all right, man, like I accomplished something really good. I'm gonna chill out. And then that chill out can be, once again, could be for some people a week. It could be for some people months. It could be some people like a year or two, like whatever, right? And then you kind of like just chill and let it do its thing. And then you're like, all right, I'm not satisfied anymore.
But that's where the vision comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, time to grow. And then, you know, you get punched in the face. And I've had this happen. And then it's like, all right, well, now we're like going down.
Yeah.
And so now I have to go into basically like grind harder than I ever have before to go reach that peak I was, you know, at before.
Have you read The Buddha and the Badass?
No.
It's by this guy named Vishen. I forget his last name, but he's the CEO of Mind Valley. It's a big education company. And I read that book while I was traveling. And what he describes is what you just said as navigation and acceleration, as like the two seasons that you bounce back and forth between in life. And so navigation, and like that's how nature is. Like if you see a cheetah isn't constantly sprinting.
Yeah.
Most of the time the cheetah is looking at it's like stalking in the grass, and it's like looking for the gazelle. And then it sees the gazelle, and once it sees the gazelle is in sight and it's within the sprint, then all of a sudden it takes off and it gives everything.
Yeah.
And it sprints, takes down the gazelle, eats, rests, and then it goes back to kind of stalking. So navigation is the period that you were just talking about of contentness, where you're like, I just accomplished something really hard. I just killed the gazelle. So for some people that looks like, you know, I just made my first million, or I just sold my company, you know, for millions of dollars, or I just flipped a house for $25,000 or $100,000, whatever, like your big, hairy, audacious goal. And now you're having this period of celebration where you're like, okay, awesome. I've been putting everything towards this. I was sprinting. Now what? And you rest and you're thinking and you're like, okay, what's the next thing? Where's the next gazelle? And then all of a sudden, when you finally see the gazelle, that's where you start sprinting again. Yeah. And sometimes it could take years. Sometimes it's decades. Sometimes it's months. I've had sprints that, you know, right now I'm in like a 3-year sprint. Yeah. And, you know, I've enjoyed every second of it. And you've been in like a 10-year sprint. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I think that's a really useful way. I think it's the best way to work after interviewing 400 millionaires and a few billionaires. I think that's the best way. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, yeah, he framed it the way, basically, like you said, the way I was saying it. But you know what's funny is your perception has been that I'm in a 10-year sprint. And I would assume like most people think that too. But that's not how I, you know, view the journey. Like if I was to look at my navigation versus acceleration, or my sprint versus like kind of my walk, let's just say I would say, okay, if I started in 2015 flipping houses, I wouldn't even say I was really sprinting, because I was still just like navigating the opportunity, because I was still playing baseball,
figuring it out.
I was still just flipping houses. It was a side thing. I was very content with making just 100,000. Like, I'm like, dude, we're killing it, guys. Like, this is great. If I could play baseball and just do this, like, so I feel like even though I kept moving up, I wasn't sprinting. So I would say from like 2015 to 2017, while I was playing baseball, it was more like navigating that lifestyle. Then 2018 came and I retired, and it was like, oh, I got an office. Okay, we're about to sprint. And so I sprinted for a couple of years, just really building this thing, now going to 100 deals a year. And then 2020 hit, and, you know, COVID hits and all this stuff. And I had to start a new journey of, I mean, I still flipped and all that, but doing social media, I started doing content, I started doing education. And so that was a sprint. And, you know, I was building those things for a couple of years. And I would say from like 2021 to 2023, I basically took, like, I would say honestly, like a year and a half of just chilling. Even though it seems like I was doing a lot, dude, it was kind of growing without me having to do a lot. Like, I was filming my podcast and doing, but like, I had such good people that the businesses were just growing without me. And I don't feel like I was sprinting or really pushing them. And then when interest rates, you know, killed real estate, and, you know, all this crap, I basically had to now go back into sprint mode. So I chilled out for maybe a year and a half. And then, 2023 to 2024. So like the last 2 years, I've been in a full on sprint. But I would say like acceleration's an interesting term because I'm sprinting, but it's like sometimes you feel like you're sprinting in place because you have so much negative headwind against you, from the market, from the economy, from bad deals and things I wasn't paying attention to, you know, during that time when I was just chilling out. And so like you're having to sprint or else you're going to like get blown away.
Correct.
And then, you know, once all the negative headwinds are gone, like now I think like it'll be like, so. And
you take off with the same effort.
Yeah. So I think that that's what 2025 is going to look like for me. Like I still think I'm going to be sprinting. But I think like it's going to be some real acceleration in terms of results.
Well, that's also where the whole like kind of concept of balance comes from, where it's just like, oh, like, yeah, it's work-life balance, and I don't believe in work-life balance, and I haven't really seen it to be true across really too many people. It's a balancing act, and so it's just like, and I'd love for you to speak on this too, but especially because, and we spoke on this on my podcast previously, where it's like you had young kids and you had a wife, and so for me, it's like when you're in that period of sprint, like that's where you have to kind of tell your family, like, hey, I've got to knock this out. Like, this is what I'm doing, you know, like I got to roll here. And so for me, you know, I put everything else to the side and I said, this is what I'm doing over the next few years. And then in 2022, that's why I started this up. And now I'm 2 years deep into the sprint, going into 3. And now I'm coming kind of like, not necessarily letting off the gas, but now it's the pendulum swings kind of to both extremes. And now I have more balance in my life than I did when this was like, this is all I'm focused on. Yeah. Because you have, in the beginning, it's just you. Your sales, your marketing, your finance, your ops, your fulfillment. Yeah. But now I have a team. Yeah. And so now I'm able to take my foot off the gas. And like you said, the business starts to grow without you if you do it the right way.
Yeah. I would say when you're trying to balance it all, the key, and I was talking to one of my one-on-one students about this, is having standards in each aspect of your life that you will not go below. And so, you know, if we say that life is comprised of 4 areas, your money, your faith, your family, well, family being relationships just in general, and then your health. Okay. Those would be like the 4 things that we really got to work at. Despite whether I've been sprinting or being content, I've had the same standard regardless. So like with my family, for instance, I've built all of this in the last 10 years, not working weekends and leaving this office at 5:30. Like right when we're done with this, I'm out. And right now I'm still in a season of sprinting and like building things and getting through problems, but I'm still going to maintain that standard for my family. And what it's done is it's obviously allowed me to still have a great family life. You know, I got 3 kids. I've been married 11 years. Like that doesn't happen, building all the things I've built, if I don't have that standard. I would have actually ended up divorced and all these things a long time ago if I just said, hey, you know what? You know, I'm going to come home at like late every night, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., because I just busy working and whatever. And I got to go in the office on these days. Like, no, it wouldn't have worked. So what it did do was, number one, it helped me keep my priorities in line. But also, too, it made me that much more of a, I guess, a savage at being efficient.
With your time.
Yeah, because I'm like, I have to leave. But I want to accomplish this. So what happens? I'm going to have to be more creative with how I spend my time, who I hire, what we focus on, what we don't focus on. So anyways, that's always been my standard and will always be the standard till the day I die. Now, am I perfect 100%? No. You know,
I just bomb at 300 on the fairway.
I just hit bombs every time. I've never hit it out of bounds in my life. That sounds like something Trump would say.
It's a great drive. It's a perfect drive.
I've never shot below 72. So, anyways, I think that that's just one example of a standard that I have in my relationships. Another one would be when it comes to faith. Like, dude, we go to church every Sunday. Like, that's what we do. I have Bible study. I had Bible study this morning right here at the office. Like, I've been doing that for 8 years. You know, I read my Bible and I pray every morning. Like, I wake up an hour early. I don't care if I went to bed late. I don't care if I went to bed early. I'm still just waking up at the same time. It's irrelevant. It's on me if I didn't go to sleep in time. That's just my fault. But that's my standard. You know, when it comes to business, my standards have changed over the years, like how much money I want to make. Right? Back when you were making 250, you're like, this is my standard. If I don't make 250, I suck. Right? But now you're like, bro, if we don't do 2 million, we screwed up.
Correct.
So that standard has shifted for me as well. And basically like my lifestyle standard, how much do I need per month to live on? I mean, back in the day, dude, we used to live on $4 or $5 grand a month. Now it's 50 grand a month. So I better, you know, raise my standard of how I'm going to provide that lifestyle.
Correct.
You know? And then health-wise, it's like you see guys who flow in and out of good health, like guys who get really fat in entrepreneurship, then all of a sudden they get healthy, and then guess what happens? They get fat again. The problem was they never had a clear standard for themselves. Bro, I've been an athlete my whole life. I've never been fat, like ever in my life. And, you know, there are times where I've been more ripped than others, but I've never been fat. And so it's just a standard I've had in my life. And that's what people screw up when they're trying to sprint or accelerate. They just don't define what those clear like bottoms are. They're so worried about the goal and the top, and they never talk about the minimums.
Yeah. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your standards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, for a guy like you, you're not married yet. You don't have kids. So you don't have to create these yet, but you will.
But I kind of want to be proactive about it, because there's a degree of what you were talking about before on my show, which is like you don't have kind of any weights around you, and you know, obviously the argument can be made when you have the right relationship and everything, it's an accelerant, not a detractor. Yeah, of course I believe that, but it's just like I have no obligation. So it's like part of you is like, okay, now's the time, go all in while you're in this season. Yeah. However, now it's also to a point where I'm like, wait a second. What do I say that I value and what do I say I want? I want to have a really strong relationship. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I'm like, but there's no room in my life right now that's inviting that. Yeah. You know, spiritually, even physically, like I'm not going on dates. Like I'm focused on my business. Yeah. I'm dating and married to my business. And so building a team and having a team now to run our community, and like people that are better than me at the different individual aspects that they do, now allows me to be more freaking human, dude. Yeah. And people don't talk about that. 29, about to be 30. Okay. So, you know, I got married when I was 24 and I had my first kid when I was 29. And I already had $1 million business when I was already a millionaire at 29. And so like, but we got married when we were broke. You know, I had to figure out how to be a husband and how to be a provider and how to also stay in shape, because I was a pro athlete. And what to do with all the couches that you're flipping in the garage.
Bro, friggin' slanging them things. And, you know, I was always active in my church and my faith. So, like, I had to learn how to, you know, try and be excellent at all these things at the same time. And this is kind of the point I want to make, and this will happen for you too, is the standards are the standards. And so right now, your standard for having a relationship is what it is. You're like, it's 0. Like, I just don't need it right now. And that's fine. Yeah. But at some point, you're going to, you know, I don't know what age it'll take, but maybe you're going to be 32 or 35 and you're like, bro, I ain't trying to be like single the rest of my life.
Dog, I'm there.
Okay.
I'm there. I don't think there's that. I'm not sure there's many eligible bachelorettes that listen to this show, but sup if you speak Spanish.
There we go. DM me, Brian. What's your
Luebben? Yeah, I'm there.
Is that Brian Luebben?
Oh yeah, it's my first name, last name.
All right. So
whole reason I came on the podcast.
Yeah, to find a lady.
Yeah.
So with that though, right? Clearly you didn't care though 2 years ago.
No.
Right? But your standard has changed now. where you're like, hey, you know what? Obviously, I don't have a girlfriend or a wife or kids yet, but I know that in order to have one, I need to spend X amount of hours essentially prospecting.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
You do. I mean, you're going to have to spend time on dates now, talking to girl. Like, that's just going to have to be, but that wasn't the case a year ago or 2 years ago.
Correct.
Because that wasn't your standard. So this is what happens, right? And I'll use my own life now. I told you my minimum standards for money, for health, for my family, and for my faith. But that's just the minimum. I'm working on things that are the most important at my life in that season. So for example, when I first became a father, or when I was on your podcast last time and I just had a newborn, I'm still going to keep my standards. It's not like I'm going to go quit my business, but I need to devote more time to my relationships and my family at that moment.
Correct.
And so I'm going to spend extra time there. So maybe it's not even just about 5 o'clock or the weekends, but now it's about, hey, you know, back when my first son was born in 2019, I stopped working on Wednesdays too, to support my wife and be there for my son. He has special needs. Like, I had to spend way more family time than normal, but it wasn't a permanent thing. And we all, my wife and I, we understood that. It's like, hey, this is a season. As we leave this season, it's going to go back to the standard, and then I'm going to focus on something else. So then there are seasons where right now I'm in a season of focusing heavily on money. And it's weird to say because it's like, well, you know, you should have made all this money and blah, blah, blah. But it just is, it ebbs and flows. I'm in this season where I'm focused on building this new business, Lead Kitchen, Wealthy University, you know, building out this new process with Home Run Offer. And I know that I'm going to focus on this for probably the next, let's call it 6 months at least. I've already been focused on it for the last year. I think it's probably got another 6 months of pure, undivided focus. And then I think it can get to the point where I can finally step away, but it will still grow.
Correct.
So then I'll have to look at my life at that moment in time and decide what's next. Maybe I'll just want to get in super good shape. Maybe it's like, I'll just have this conviction of, you know what? Yeah, you're in shape, but dude, like, let's like get crazy shape.
Let's go crazy with it.
Let's get really crazy. Let's take all the peptides. Yeah. You know, like, let's get nuts. Or maybe there's going to come, you know, a point where I'm like, dude, I need to go all in on ministry and faith. And like right now we already do a lot with ministry. I mean, I do more than most people, but I know I'm not like 1000% focused on it. Like, what I could absolutely see happening in my life is, you know, maybe I'm focused on this business now for the next year, 2 years, and then I can sell one of them, right? Like, we get them to this recurring revenue. I get this massive, you know, valuation because of that.
Correct.
Bro, I would sell it tomorrow, right? Because then it's not that I'm going to go retire. It's just now that, okay, I'm set there. Let's go now focus on ministry.
But it's important that you say that because you just said multiple times, all in, all in, all in. Like, there is no off switch for guys like us and guys and like for people listening.
I'm all in on whatever it is I'm focused on in that area of life that I really want to accelerate. But I don't stop the other. I still have a standard.
Correct.
For the other. That's the thing I want like people to know, because other people are like, oh, I got to build my business, Ryan. I got to, you know, do this stuff. Like, I'm not going to be able to see my family. And like, they got to understand that. And I'm like, well, let's slow your roll. Okay. Number one, there's a way to do both. You're just not good enough yet.
Fair. Yeah.
Like, clearly people do it. You know, if you think you got to work 80 hours a week to make it work, that's just because your skill set says that, hey, I make $20 an hour, therefore I need to work 80 hours to do this. Well, get a $100 an hour skill set and you don't. Get $1,000 an hour skill set and you don't. It takes time to figure out that skill set, but it's just, you're simply not valuable enough. You don't generate enough value into the world to do it in less time yet. And that's okay.
Yeah. And then that's the pain.
Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, cool. I need to get better.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to have what I want.
And what I would suggest to all the married people, because I know a lot of people are married with kids, is that you have a conversation about a minimum standard with your family. And so right now, like, whatever it is you do, you do. And if you need 80 hours, maybe you do, at least initially. Okay. Maybe you need 60. Maybe you think you need 80, but the compromise is 60, right? You're like, dude, if I could just, you know, do 80 hours, if I spend 40 on my job and then I spend 40 on my business, like, I can really do it. But maybe that's just not good enough for your family. And it's like, all right, we're going to do this a little slower. I'm going to, compromise and do 20 on my business. And your family's okay with that.
Yeah. And it all comes back down to what are you optimizing for?
Right.
So it's just like every time that we have somebody, so now we help hundreds of other people do this now too. We have like 340 people in our community. And the first thing that we take them through is vision. So it's like the first time in their lives for 99% of them that they've actually stopped and taken a second to be like, what the hell do I actually want?
Yeah.
And nobody actually thinks about that. So the reason that you have standards is because you're really clear about what you want and what's important to you and what matters to you.
Yeah.
So people don't take that time because for the majority of their life, they've been living on other people's standards and other people's calendars.
Yeah.
And now finally it's their time to set their own. And they're like, now what? Where's the roadmap? So my favorite roadmap I've used is called 3-Year Vivid Vision. It's book by Cameron Harold. He's a friend of mine now. And it's that 3-year detailed document of what your life and business looks like as if you're experiencing it in the present tense. And so I just completed my second Vivid Vision, and now I'm working on my third. So I've done it for 6 years now, and I wrote down impossible things on paper, and I pulled them off. So the first one was waking up in Mykonos, and I walk out on my balcony, and I'm like, how the hell am I going to pull that off? And then now it's like building this community and building this company at $10 million a year. In 3 years. And like, that's what we're working on right now is executing that plan. And there's a bunch of other stuff that goes around it. But what happens is when you're crystal clear about what you want and you have your GPS set, that's how you can be able to say yes and say no to different strategies, because strategy is a set of self-imposed constraints on decision-making. So strategy is what you say no to, not what you say yes to. And like we were just talking about your strategy, you're like, I'm shutting down businesses left and right because I need to keep the main thing the main thing. And I know what I value and I know what businesses can really take me to the next level. And so like, that's how we help people decide what asset class they're going to use or what vehicle they're going to use. I'm like, okay, cool. You say you want $20,000 a month and you want to do it in 2 years of passive income, but you're buying houses, like you're buying single family.
It ain't going to happen.
It ain't going to happen. And they have never thought about that.
And I'm glad you're bringing this up. So Craig Groeschel, he's a big pastor. I use this quote all the time, and I don't even know that's the exact quote, but he basically said that limitation is what sparks innovation.
Oh, yeah.
And it's true, right? The way we innovate is because we have some form of limitation.
Like your time,
money, resources, all that, right? If we're like, hey, we got to fix this in 1 week. That now puts a limitation of how we're going to actually do this. If I say, yo, I got to make, we got to do 10 million this year with me working 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Not weekends. It's like, all right, well, we're going to have to do this very differently than maybe everyone else does it in order for this to make sense.
Correct. It just depends on the level of questions. So it's like the quality of your life, Tony Robbins, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions that you ask. And so it's what you're talking about is like Parkinson's law. So it's like the amount of work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion.
Yeah.
And so it's just like for you, it's like if I'm saying, oh, I want $20,000 a month in 2 years versus in 10 years, it's a completely different strategy.
You need a completely different strategy.
And aren't thinking about that. And dude, there's so many people in my DMs and yours too that are like, I've got $80,000, $100,000 in cash that I've saved up over 3 years. I've done the Dave Ramsey stuff. I live on less than I make.
Yep.
And I've been waiting to buy a rental property, because I hear about it on Bigger Pockets and I still haven't been able to buy one yet. And the interest rates are crazy and private equity, like these other buyers are taking it for cash.
Yeah.
And they're like, what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, why the hell are you still trying to buy it?
Yeah.
So like, say you do. Say you pull it off. Say you buy it and you put freaking 20% down of your capital. So $25,000 down or $80,000 down.
You're losing all your capital. Yeah.
You're making $100, $200 a month.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
So the cash on cash isn't even there. So I'm like, you're focused on the wrong strategy for 3 years. And now you've got 3 years of opportunity cost that you could have been spent using, like learning new skill sets, networking with different people. Yeah. And so like, that's the main thing that I was looking for. And that's what we wanted to build. Is they're like, okay, cool. So now how do we help people get into that realm and start asking the questions about what assets will actually help us get out of our jobs and replace this? And so for us, our assets of choice were commercial real estate and small business. And like you're building a business, an automated wholesaling system, like that's your vehicle. Yep. And there's a million ways to make $1 million. And it's just like people, if they just knew what the strategies were and that they were available, it changed the entire game.
Well, I think most people don't even, like you said, think through the idea. They're like, I just heard rentals are a good idea. I just heard buying a business is a good idea.
And they just go with it.
And they just go with it. And I think it goes back to the exercise of when I visualize the worst case, right? I'm like, okay, it's all good. Like, they're not even visualizing their best case and like visualizing it to it actually playing out or working or not, right? Because they're like, yeah, I have 100K. Like, I think I should buy a rental. And like, I can't tell you how many times I've been like, okay, let's say you do.
Let's play it out.
Let's play it out. Okay. You got 100,000. Let's say you buy 2. So you have 2. What do you think they're going to make? Let's play it out. Where are you going to buy? Okay.
Midwest.
You bought 3. So let's say you bought your best case. Let's say you bought 5. Okay. You bought 5. You put 20 grand down on each of them. Okay. You got 5. Now what? What are they going to each make? And you're like, well, I heard they could make 300, 400, 5. I'm like, let's just give it to you. Let's play out the best case. They make 500 each. You're making 2,500 a month. Now what? And they're like, I'm like, how long did it take you to save the 100K again?
Bingo.
And they're like, that took me like 10 years. That took me 5 years. I'm like, okay. So in about 5 years, you could maybe buy another 5 and then you'll be at 5,000.
Yeah.
And they're like, dang, this plan sucks.
And it gets even worse because they're not even like, so that's just that. They're not even thinking about the opportunity cost.
Oh, yeah.
So that's 5 years. Because I mean, think about you 5 years ago. Take away all the investments, just the relationships and the knowledge.
Yeah.
Like me 5 years ago, dude, like 2019, 5 years. 2019, I was just like, well, I guess I'm going to save my money and buy a house a year.
Yeah.
You know, and now 5 years later, dude, like
you're like, that wouldn't have worked.
Dude, and so an example of this, I'll give like a tangible example to like put teeth to it. So we've got a guy named Mason. Mason came and joined our thing and he was just like, okay, dude, I've got no experience, no nothing. I don't got money either. And you just said like, it's not about like the resources, it's about the resourcefulness. Like if you have limitations, it creates innovation. He's like, I want to learn how to do multifamily. We're like, okay, cool. He's like, well, you don't got money, so you're going to have to be the hustle and you're going to have to learn the knowledge. And so he's like, okay, well, I'm going to do everything that it takes to do it. And so you got Mason over here, person A, and person B was somebody that was just like, oh, I don't want to invest in anything. Like, I think all of you guys are scams. Everyone that's on Instagram is a scam, like whatever. And we're like, okay, cool. Like, go listen to the podcast, have fun. And so Mason went and bought 96 doors in the last 14 months when everyone else is complaining about the market. Now, is his cash flow like wonderful, wonderful? No, I think he makes about $4,000 or $5,000, but still he did that through partnership, learning how to scale, learning how to submit LOIs, learning how to go like do the thing. And now he's able to do that. And he's got like the skill sets and the Rolodex to where the other person still hasn't done anything. They're still sitting with their 80,000.
Yeah.
And now that person's calling and they're like, hey, now I want to learn it. Mason's not only 96 units ahead, but he's also like light years ahead with his experience, like mentally, with his mindset. And people just, they don't take into the account. And that's like the most costly part about it is just opportunity cost. Yeah.
Yeah. I tell people this when they maybe are analysis paralysis or scared or whatever.
Yeah.
And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I always say this. I'm like, and like, I'll even say this to you with getting married. So the reality is as you get older, everything gets harder.
Yeah.
So like, you know, yeah, you could have more wealth and everything, but life gets harder. Like not only do you have less time, you like literally you have less time to make the thing happen, but typically as you get older, like you have more obligations, you become less risk, you know, well, you're more risk averse,
yeah.
Right. And it's like, dude, I didn't have kids 5 years ago. Like I have way more obligation now having 3 kids.
I think about that. Yeah.
I have way more obligations with a bigger company and their families and all those things. I have way more obligations with more responsibility. That's just what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when these people are like, oh, well, you know, the timing's not right. You know, I need this to happen and this to happen. This is, I'm like,
external.
I'm literally telling you, it will only get harder from here. It will never be easier than right now in your life. And it's just like, you know, think about it. Do you wish you would have started 5 years ago doing this thing? Of course. Everybody's going to say, yeah. Why would you think waiting is going to be any easier?
That's literally the pitch that I had back when I didn't have any money and I was still working that job because I was spending it all. Yeah, I mean, honest, like call a spade a spade. Dude, I was like, there was like this $12,000 mastermind and there was like this $10,000 mindset coach. And I'm like, dude, why would I invest $20,000, call it, to be in these rooms with millionaire real estate investors and to have like a mindset coach. Like that's what rich people do, dude.
Yeah.
Like not me. I was like, dude, I'll do that. I'll do that later when I got things figured out and I got my business figured out. That's when I'll invest into the development and the masterminds. Then it was Brandon Turner, mutual friend of ours. Like Brandon was like, hey man, have you ever thought about the fact that you're not going to build the business and you're not going to get the stuff figured out until you join the mastermind and until you hire the coach? I was like, okay, you 6'5" bearded guy that buys real estate. I was like, I'm going to listen to you instead. And I invested in myself. And in the beginning, it's painful when you make your first investment, like especially in like people.
Yeah.
Where you're like, because before you hire people, you invest in mentors and coaches and stuff. So it's like, I started that. And the first one's always the most painful until you realize the ROI on it. And then you become addicted to it.
Yeah.
So now it's just like I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on different coaches, on different communities, on different mentors. And it's like the common denominator across every single person that I interview is it doesn't go away. It just gets more expensive and specialized.
Yeah. 100%.
That's it. I mean, you could speak to that.
Real estate investors, I found a brand new way to create cash flow that's better than anything else I've ever done. It's better than rental properties, Airbnb, my flipping business, multifamily. It's the best thing we've done yet. It is building an automated wholesale business. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how do you build an automated wholesale business? Well, what if you had the same exact leads that I get every single month? What if you had a sales script that was so easy to close deals over the phone that you could do it all across the country? And what if you could sell your deals directly on the MLS without a real estate license and without having to actually own the property and getting top dollar? Well, we do that with this new method. And I made an 11-minute video where I go over how it all works, how you can start doing it today. So if you want to go see that video, go to wealthyinvestor.com, go click the case study and see what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, right, I think most people are scared of the unknown. And I think when you're going to invest money. So first off, let's just talk about investing, okay? Most people, right, are not even at the point where they should be thinking about investing in something that's going to like just make them passive income. Like most people's first investment needs to be in themselves. Actually, everyone's does. So it's not even most, right? Because like, you know, I'll get people who are like, to your point, right? Hey, I saved $80,000. Should I buy a rental property? And you're like, no, like you need to like invest in you. Spend 10 grand investing in you. You still have 70 grand. And then you're going to be far more wise on what you need to be able to do, right? But let's just say somebody doesn't have 80 grand, right? There's somebody who has no money, right? And they're like, dude, I need to take out a credit card. I need to get a loan. I got to do whatever to, you know, make a move. And I want to, if I screw up, I'm done, right? And I'm like, well, no matter what you do, if you screw up, you're done.
Correct.
You have nothing.
You haven't even started.
Yeah. So if you choose to do nothing, you're done. If you choose to stay in your current place, you're done because you just don't even have anything and you're never going to learn how. So number one, your current situation, you already lost. Number two, okay, if you invest in mentorship and you picked the wrong thing, okay, yeah, you lost. It didn't work out. You picked the wrong coach. I get it. If you invest in a business and it doesn't work out, you lost. You invest in the wrong property and you missed something, you lost.
Invest in the wrong partner, like spouse,
marketing channel. You know, you invest in leads that didn't work out, whether the leads were bad or whether you just suck. Either way, you lost. So my point is, people somehow think that investing in something else is smarter than themselves. Most people opt to spend the money on, you know what, I'd rather just put it in Tesla. And really what they're saying is they trust Tesla more than themselves.
That's crazy.
Or they'll say, oh, dude, I can't spend money on education. I need money to buy leads. And it's like, bro, you understand you don't even know how to work them. Like, even if you put your money in leads, I understand you do need to put money to buy leads. Nobody's disputing that.
Yeah.
But you're probably going to burn the leads because you just don't know anything.
Yeah. And that's why I think, you know, from an education perspective, it's like I had a course too. And it's just like, and I think that courses, I mean, because you have courses, everyone's got courses at some point, and it's just like paying for education alone is like good. It's a good start, but you also need to actually like use it.
Yeah.
And so that was the big discrepancy that we found is we started doing like, I was like, okay, well, I just interviewed all these hundreds of people and, you know, helped them for free on my podcast, you know, because they were all calling in and saying, okay, well, I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA, I'm an engineer, I'm a sales rep, I make $300,000 a year. What do you recommend? I was like, well, I would do this, this, and this. I just help them. And then they're like, cool, thank you. They're like, do you got anything? Like, can I join? I was like, nope, don't got anything. And I was like, but here you go. And then so what I ended up doing was, and this is actually a really cool business lesson that people can use for any business that they're trying to start. So I got to know my customer, right? So from my podcast, I put the offer on the podcast alone, not the social media. And I said, hey, I'm going to do 100 freedom calls is what I called them. I was like, call in, like, here's the Calendly. That is me directly. I'm here in Brazil. I'm not doing anything. Let's talk. I want to get to know you guys and help you any way I can. And so everybody had the same 4 things that were the issues. They had a lack of clarity. They didn't know where they were going and how to get there. They had a lack of confidence because they're like, dude, I've never, bought a commercial property or a business before. Like I've bought like a few houses. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
They didn't have community. So they don't have other people around them that are even talking about this stuff. They're just like water cooler office talk or their friends and family.
Yeah.
And lastly, they didn't have capital.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, I've got 50K. I don't know how to raise money. Like, I don't have anything else. And so I was like, got it. Okay. So those are the 4 C's. Let's make a course and like solve it. So I made a course, took me a month, and I was like, all right, let me solve each one of these step by step. So I did all that. And then I sent an email and I said, yo, what's up, everybody? We talked last over the summer and I made this thing that I think will solve everything that you guys said. I said, I didn't have anything for you, but here's something for you. $1,500 question mark? And I put like my Venmo, and then they were like, and my Cash App. It's like, you just send me Venmo or Cash App. I don't have an LLC. I don't have a landing page. I don't have a bank account. I made $100,000 in a weekend. I was just like living in Brazil. I was like, oh, that's called product market fit. I was like, got it. And then so everyone came in, and then the next part's the most important part, which you do for every one of your businesses too. So then they all join, and then they go through the course, and then I ask them, I'm like, and I dump them all into a Facebook page. And I said, okay, what's your favorite part? Like what parts are resonating? What parts need work? What parts need to change? It's called iteration in a company and in the feedback. And so they all told me, hey, the education's cool, but we really we're partnering up with each other in the Facebook group. They're like, dude, the people in here are freaking awesome. Like we love these people. I said, oh, okay, it's the wrong business model. And so I switched the model from a paid course with a free community to a paid community with a free course, changed the course to the 30-day onboard for the community. And then we launched formally like the Action Academy community that January. And then ever since then, I've been all in 100% on the community. And then when I wrote the book, I literally used the framework of the course for the book.
Right.
And then that's what became the book. Yeah. So like that's how we launched the business. And when we did launch, we were able to scale the way we did because we already knew the customer like the back of our hand, and we were directly building the company piece by piece, brick by brick with the customer feedback. So we're working hand in hand with the customer to like actually go through and build what they needed. And then they would say, I need more. I need more. I need this. I need that. I hate this. I hate that. The first 3 months, we didn't even have an onboarding process.
Yeah.
Now we have a 90-day onboarding process where it's like handheld at every single level, and we kiss you on the freaking cheek and tuck you into bed at night.
Yeah.
But same thing with you and your wholesale business. You said, oh, I'm really good at leads. I'm going to do leads. I like ads.
Yeah.
And then like, okay, cool. Can you do that for us? And you're like, okay. What else do you need help with? Dispo. Okay. I can do that. What else do you need? And then you're able to ask your audience. That's the importance and the benefit of having an audience. Yeah. It's the game on easy mode. And so it's like you don't have to have a community or a brand to like build businesses, but like, or buy businesses, but I think it sure as hell helps.
Oh yeah.
You know?
It definitely helps.
Yeah.
It just all comes with timing, right? Because you focused on your podcast for a long time.
A year before I made an offer. Yeah. Even that offer was a free offer.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people haven't even done whatever it is they're trying to. And they're like, I think I need to build my brand. I think I need to. I'm like, no, you don't.
And they haven't even like done the thing.
And
I'm thinking about leaving my job.
Yeah. And they're like, so you don't think social media? I'm like, I didn't say that. I said, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I got a lot of feedback recently when I did something I never did before. I did one-on-one calls for $1,000, and I just wanted to see. And so I did it for a 24-hour thing and had like 30 purchases. And so my thing was booked for like 2 weeks. And I got to hear all these different people's problems and what they were going through and why they were coming. And ironically, for the people on those, like 75% of them were not even real estate. They were all just general random businesses that wanted advice on things. So a lot of them were education guys. A lot of them were just normal service-based businesses trying to figure out their marketing and scaling. A lot of them were content guys. So like it was just this random realm of people. And then 25% were guys trying to scale their real estate business. And, long story short, it was really good getting feedback because that was actually the whole point of it. It was like, I actually want to see, number one, how many people would take advantage of this without any promotions. Just, I made one reel, one story, and one email. And it was like, that's it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder like who are the people that are going to end up buying this? And so I got great feedback on that. And it's led to other things that we've done, led to different like true one-on-one clients. It led to lead kitchen people. It led to a lot of things. So maybe I'll run it back again. I don't know, maybe like once a year or twice a year or something.
Yeah.
But the moral of that story is whether you're charging for it or it's free or whatever, getting feedback from your customers and people is really important.
It's everything.
Yeah. And that's how you reiterate, like you said, you just keep making the product better. You figure out what people are willing to pay for something, all that. Dude,
and it's like, if you just do that, that is the singular thing that will set you apart from 99.7% of like the course creators in like the online education space. Is if you just fulfill on what you say. Like you're just like, okay.
It's a weird concept.
Yeah, it's insane. Like you just do what you advertise and you fulfill on it and everyone's happy and you're like, oh, this is crazy. But also it's good to know like the negative stuff, and it hurts, dude, when you hear it. Because they'll be like, hey, this part is terrible, or like, this is awful, or I had a really bad experience. Like, a bottleneck that we had is we have to be very careful about what member a new member meets as their first interaction. Because we had one where it was just like, there was no quality control, and we were just like, let me introduce you to Jake or to John.
Jake's off the wall.
Jake was having a bad effing day.
Yeah.
And then the first person you meet in our community is that cost me a member. And he was like, oh, I don't want to talk to these people.
These guys suck.
Got it. Okay. So we just lost money there because we refunded them. I'm like, all right. So that's something that we need to solve for in the future. And that's the most valuable feedback. And nobody talks to their freaking customer. All they do is they just sit back. I mean, even with your sellers, like if you're going through an acquisition process for anything, like know who you're speaking with. Yeah. After you do talk to enough brokers, talk to enough business owners, talk to enough distressed sellers, you know the common pain points. Yeah. And what most people do is they just assume everything and then they launch something into the ether and they're pissed when nothing comes back. And they're like, I spent a year building this thing.
Yeah,
like,
nobody wanted it.
Nobody ever wanted it in the first place. You solved for the wrong problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've interviewed a lot of guys and just, talking to you, you've got like a lot of quotes and different philosophies and things.
Dude,
so I assume you read a lot of books and obviously you traveled the world. So you seem like this philosophical guy. What are some of the best things that you've learned over the years from these people you've been interviewing?
It's interesting because the perspective I get is from people that have like I said, like I've had a few billionaires on the podcast as well. And most of the people that I hang out with are kind of like your age or a little bit older, like they're in their 40s, 50s. Most of them have grown kids.
Yep.
So like that's the perspective I get. The biggest perspective shift that I've gotten is that there's never going to be a mountaintop that's going to be fulfilling. Like every single time that you get to the mountaintop, you're just going to see the rest of the mountain range and you're going to realize that it's just an infinite range that you're going to keep climbing for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So one of my biggest mentors, he said, stop to enjoy the view on the climb. He's like, look back and check out the sunrise. Like, look at the flowers while you're climbing. He's like, you're going to be climbing the rest of your life. He's like, so that's a big one. Another one was actually from McConaughey. And this helped me a bunch.
Matthew McConaughey. You had him on?
Didn't have him on, but this is
you learned it from him.
So ironically, like little tiny sidebars, like I work out with him at my gym in Austin.
Okay.
And everyone is so cool about it that I can't make a big deal out of it. And it's so hard because nobody's talking to him. And he's like, there's doing freaking tricep push downs. You're like sitting next to him. And one day, finally, after weeks, I gave him a fist bump. I was like, hey man, green lights changed my life. And he goes, oh, green lights. yeah, man. I was like, dude, it's sweet. I talked to you. Thanks. Okay, I got that out the way. I'm not asking for a picture. But no, he has this quote where he's like, when you're running downhill, just enjoy the run. When you're running downhill. And so for me, I don't know if this is like this for you, but I've seen it to be pretty universal across everyone I've interviewed. When things are going really well and things are like easy and you're making money on easy mode, and all of a sudden that the ad is working, the acquisitions, like the new mailers are working, like everything's flowing.
Yeah.
You start slowing down and looking over your shoulder and you're like, what's coming? You're like, who's coming for? Or like, where's the tiger in the bush that's going to come out and like take me down?
Yeah.
And you start slowing the jog. And then so what Matthew McConaughey was saying, he's like, keep running downhill, enjoy the run, because the uphill is coming. You might as well enjoy the downhill run.
Yeah.
And so that has literally changed my life when I started doing that. So like now I'm actually more present and enjoying it in those periods of like acceleration where it's really working and things are clicking.
Mm-hmm.
I had one guy who's the founder of Priceline.com. His name's Jeff, and he's a billionaire. And he talked about this thing of resonant frequency, which is he's like, when he's in a Ferrari and the Ferrari is going, I think it was like 127 miles an hour. It's like the car just gets silent. And he goes, what's wrong with the car? And he takes it to the dealership, and the dealership's like, no, there's nothing wrong with it. That's just the speed it's designed to go at. Anything beneath it and anything above it, like there's noise, but like at that speed is where it's designed to be. And then so like that was a lesson he taught me, where he was like, a lot of people are going like 40 miles an hour when they're designed to go 90.
Yeah.
And they're hanging out with everyone else in the slow lane. And until they actually go 90 miles an hour, they don't realize that's where they're meant to be. That's another one, but I could go on for days, dude. I love,
you know, what's funny is I forgot who I had on the show, but they were talking about like flow state.
Yeah.
And that's what it made me think about, because he's like, you know, Ryan, you move at such a fast pace. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I was like,
doesn't feel like it.
I feel pretty patient. Like, I feel like I'm patient. I feel like it's not quick at all. Like I'm just moving.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like kind of what you're describing. Like different people have different speeds at flow state.
Yeah. But the commonalities that I've found across everybody are, you know, I think what you said is important about having your standards, like not rising to your goals, but falling to your standards. Having strong standards, having strong sense of self, like knowing who you are and what you value.
Yeah.
The importance of having vision.
Not worried about it, what other people think.
Not worried about what other people think, or at least, you know, not as worried before as you were before.
Right.
There's always some degree of it. Enjoying the climb. And my favorite one is, it's like the 80-year rule, when you like zoom out to yourself at 80 years old and you ask the question, will I even remember what I'm pissed about today? And like, dude, that has saved my life like multiple times, where I'm so locked in on this problem.
Yeah.
And it feels like suffocating, because the bigger your business gets, the bigger problems come.
Yeah.
And then as I'm going through it, I'm just like so upset. Like even this morning, I was just pissed, like working, because I'm like, it's raining, it's pouring. I'm like, where's our cash flow, dude? Like, what's going on this month? And I'm like, wait a second. Like, am I even going to remember this a month from now? No, let alone when I'm 80. And so that's helped me get out of a bunch of dark times. That was good advice I got from mentors.
Yeah. I call that one having eternal perspective.
That's good.
And, you know, as a Christian, that's how I look at it. I'm like, all right. I mean, I already know where my ending is. I already know what's going to happen. And I know that eternity is way longer than here on this earth. And so it's like, the Bible says we're just a mist.
Right.
Here on earth. And then the rest is eternity. It's like, you can't even fathom what it is.
And we're worried about a flip going south or a business being delayed. And dude,
somebody
like,
saying some crap about you.
Dude, we're just meat puppets like, walking around on this like giant floating rock through an infinite universe. It create our own misery. Like, it's insane. And so like, that's another thing somebody told me, is they're like, dude, like nothing matters, which means everything matters. They're like, so just enjoy the small stuff. Like, that's humanity. And another one is, planes have only been around, and this is like random, I'll pause this tangent here in a second. Dude, planes have only been around for 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah.
For all of human existence, for millions of years up to this point, we have not been able to go like randomly pop over to any place in the world.
Yeah.
Until recently, like especially the last 50 years.
Well, and even like the internet connecting us everywhere within the last 20 years.
Exactly. So I'm like, so you're telling me that you're still going to be focused on just like staying at home for the entirety of your life, not leaving your small town. Even the people I grew up with, most of them have never even left the country unless it's on a cruise. I'm like, dude, there's so many different perspectives out there. There's so many different ways of thinking. And it's like, I've been to 37 countries, 38 now, across like 9 different time zones. And you get a lot of perspective from doing that. And I was just like, dude, I can't believe other people aren't doing it.
What's your favorite place to go? Top 3.
There's a bunch of different ones. Mediterranean's awesome. So that's where all like what do you call them? The center, like the people that live to 100 and plus, like the blue zones.
So what country is that?
Yeah, that's Italy and like around the Mediterranean, because they've got a strong sense of community. They're still doing work that's meaningful and they're still moving around and eating well. But like Italy, Croatia, Greece, like, dude, love it. South of France is awesome. I always will find a way to get over there. I love Colombia. I love Brazil. Like, there's just so many because of the people and the culture. So there's just different places for different stuff. Like, I'm probably going to buy a place in Colombia and live down there, because you can go down there and you instantly 5x your money.
I was in Colombia in 2022.
Yeah. I was in, Medellin. It's my favorite.
Is Cartagena out there?
Yeah, Cartagena's on the coast.
Yeah, that's where I was.
Yeah. Yeah, but I love it, dude. I go down there, like I'll probably stay all of December down there, and I live down there and get a steak dinner for $20.
Are you still like a nomad?
To a degree. My home base is in Austin, but I'm slowing down now because I recognize that was also...
Why you don't have a wife.
Yeah, I'm like, dude. And somebody said that something very profound to me recently, and I'll share it on the podcast, and that's, and you probably relate to this to a degree, where they were like, hey man, like you're traveling all the time and you're everywhere, and you say you have all these friends. I'm like, yeah, dude, I've got thousands of friends. And he's like, I don't think so.
I'm not buying it.
Yeah, he's like, I think you have thousands of people that want to be your friend.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, huh.
You're like,
yeah. Now it's like, if you ask them, they're like, yeah, I'd like to hang out with Brian, or I'd like to hang out with Ryan. Yeah. I'd, like, if I'm in the city, like, I define a friend as somebody that if I fly into your city, are you going to stop what you're doing and make time on the calendar for us to go grab a beer or eat or hang out? If not, then you're an acquaintance.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that I have, but I was like, it needs to be reciprocal. That requires energy and that requires intention. And so for me, that's a new season I'm entering in my life, as now my business is scaling to where I'm like, okay, I'm going to be way more deep and way more intimate with the friends that I have. And I'm going to I want to be a really good friend. And that's why I invest, because I want to be a really good father in the future.
Yeah.
And because my dad wasn't around, like I was raised by a single mom, and like I had to teach myself how to throw a baseball. I had to teach myself how to shave.
Yeah.
When I got to middle school, I was like, everybody had these edges on me because they'd already been playing sports from Pee-wee leagues.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, shit, like now how am I supposed to compete? In football, basketball, and everything. I tried it all out. But I was like, dude, like one day, like I'm not gonna be this. Like I'm gonna have, like with my kids, I'm gonna have the financial freedom to where I'm gonna raise them up. I'm gonna be at every single ball game, every dance recital.
Yeah.
That's why I invest. And now it's super cool with the people in our group, is a lot of them have young kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are like, or they're like pregnant, or they just had their first, and they're like, I want to do that too. That's important to me.
Yeah.
And so it's my why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think what your friend said has a lot of truth, especially if you're like on social media.
Yeah.
I got a lot of friends.
In a podcast.
Yeah.
They know you.
Yeah. I've got a lot of friends in other places, right? And granted, we've met in person, we've hung out, we've done things, and a lot of them are famous guys or just people in our community and whatever. Like I'll see them at WealthCon or any of these things, right? So maybe I'll see them a couple times a year, maybe once a year. And I would still say that there may be a level 2 friend, an acquaintance being somebody who you just never see.
Yeah,
But you know of them or whatever, right? And I got lots of acquaintances too. But like to me, a true friend, it's somebody that you are doing life with. They're people here in this office. Like I see them every day. They're my coworkers or my employees or my partners. And, I see these people on a weekly basis. You know, they're people in my church. Like the people who you do life with are your real friends. And I think maybe that's what he's alluding to. Like, it's impossible for you to do life with consistent people
and to give attention.
Yeah.
And to have that reciprocal relationship with everyone. Because at the end of the day, man, like the most important currency is like relationship currency. Like the value of your relationships. And you can see it like whenever you see the billionaire on a boat by himself.
Yeah.
What's the fun in that? You have $100 million super yacht. It's you?
Yeah.
You know, so what do? They fill it up with a bunch of young women and they're like, oh, now I feel something. Or they buy a table at a club and they're like, I feel something.
Yeah.
And I've been with those guys and I'm like, I don't feel like I want to move to Miami.
Yeah, this ain't it.
So I moved to Austin where I'm like, we go do cold plunges for fun and talk about philosophy and podcasting.
In Austin, they definitely do talk about philosophy.
Yeah.
It's not even in Texas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's been a blast, man. And it's just like a really cool season where it's like I'm coming up on 30, you know, in December.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing a lot of reflection on life and I'm like, okay, what did I accomplish this decade? And what am I aiming for in this next decade?
Yeah.
And the next decade is like, I want to be someone that's like very, very well-rounded, you know, because I haven't been described as that before.
Yeah.
I'm a very all-in, like
one aspect,
ignore everything else. Like my house is a mess because I'm focused on everything else. And so
my advice to you would be, you know, to your point, right? You'd call that like a one-dimensional man.
Correct. Yeah.
And obviously we don't want that. And I've interviewed lots of dudes on this podcast who are single dudes, 35, 40, you know, grinding. And and very successful, well-known, millions of dollars. And whether they had the life of, you know, just wanting lots of girls. Like I've had the alpha male guys. I've also had I've had them all.
Yeah.
And,
thoughts and prayers.
But we have great debates because obviously we're coming from way different perspectives of life and women and everything else. But, you know, then I've had guys who are, you know, 40 and they're not the alpha male guys, but they just haven't found the one. They don't have kids. And I can tell you they all regret it.
Oh, always.
You know, because there's no amount of money that will fulfill the relationships and that partnership that we desire as men with, you know, our spouse. And then that, you know, that feeling you get when you have kids and, you know, just it changes how you perceive everything.
Dude, so my vision, I put it in there. I think it's not because they can't find them, it's that they're not being intentional about it.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, right? Like, you've been very intentional about building the business and the podcast and everything else. And then it's just going to be like, and probably to this point and I don't know, but I'm going to speak for my assumption. Maybe you felt like, hey, you know, as I get more fame and business and like the person's just going to appear and like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it hasn't happened. And it's like, all right, as I go into this next season of life, setting a new standard, I am going to devote X amount of time in my schedule to making this happen.
Dude, but it's also frustrating because dude, I don't know how the hell we ended up here, but here we are.
The end of my podcast, as they go longer, always end up on like relationships or faith or something else.
Yeah.
They start business and then the real truth starts to come out around an hour and a half.
Yeah, the irritating thing about dating. So I'll like preface all of this. So I was in a really long-term, like I was not really long-term, but 3 years was the longest relationship I've been in. And I was madly in love and with this Brazilian woman. And I was just like,
you met her in Brazil?
No, we worked together.
Okay.
But she was like from Brazil. Yeah. And so we dated, we moved in together. It's the first love and everything. And so I was just like, oh, okay, well, I have this vision. I was like, check this out. We're going to quit our jobs. I've got the money now. We're going to go travel around the world together. We lived together for a year. And she's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that ain't my vision.
Yeah. She's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to stay here. And she's like, I'm building up my own coaching, my personal training business. I want to stay here with my friends. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's my vision. What do you mean?
Yeah.
I was like, it's my vision. I put on the vision. Look at the vision board. I was like, can you not see that in my office?
Your vision's irrelevant.
Yeah. And so, dude, I'm saying that from a place of deep, deep learning.
Yeah.
And hopefully people can take my story and understand. And dude, like I just dragged her along with it because I was like, what logical person would not want to quit their job, go travel around the world and live in Greece for a month and all that stuff? And, we'd been dating and I had her father's permission to marry her and everything. She'd already been married before, and she said she didn't want to get married. She didn't want to have kids.
You're just not listening.
I'm not listening at all, dude. And like at the surface level, the relationship's great. Like everything is cruising, everything is good. But she was just like, those were her standards. And all of a sudden, we're in Greece together, and I was like, I feel like we tried this out, but I feel like you don't want to be here, and I feel like your family, my family, like and me, like I see a life together. But you don't. And she's like, no, I don't. Like I've told you.
I've been telling you.
I've told you. Like she's like, I don't want to get married. And she's like, I want to be with you, but I don't want to get married. Like it's because she got divorced. Obviously, it didn't work.
Yeah.
And so we broke up, and I put on a plane home, and I went to continue traveling on my own. So it's like that's such a sexy story, and that's what gets the juices flowing for the headlines and the podcast titles and stuff. And it's a cool like origin story.
Yeah.
But like the experience was quite painful, and I was super depressed, and I was like trying to really discover myself. And afterwards, and I've been single since for 2 years now. And so ever since that, I've just been like, okay, like I was never listening, and so then I went and built my business and, started the business up. And then now it's finally to a point where it's more like being heart-centered.
Yeah. And like you'll come to the same conclusion that you did when you first quit your job and you traveled and did the thing and you built the podcast and you replaced your income. And you're like, all right, this feels a little empty.
Correct.
And then
that's where I'm at.
Right. And that's where it's like, all right, I built a 7-figure business. Now it feels a little empty.
Yeah. And then you want to go travel, and you can travel.
Yeah. But like, I already did this.
Yeah. And then you're like, go to the 5-star resort, and you go to the world famous places. And I've been to them now because I have a list of 100 top hotels that I want to go to.
Yep.
And now the idea of spending $1,300, $1,500 a night on a hotel is like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
And I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter if I'm in there by myself.
Right.
Like I need somebody in there that's like sharing in this in the journey with me. So so it's just a new season where it's like, and as you could tell, like I've put a lot of thought into this, and now it's a new season of intentionality.
And that's what I was saying earlier about coming up with, for the person listening who has to go put in that, call it 60 hours a week to build this thing and work their current job. It's like, have that conversation with because most of them are already married. It's like, have that conversation because you may find that your family doesn't even want that vision.
Dude, super important story. We just did a Tulum event, had 100 people there. It's the biggest event we've done. I'm super proud of it.
Nice.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And one of the guys has been stressing and sweating. He's already financially free, and he's grinding his tail off, investing to get more units, more doors, so that he could financially retire his wife.
She's like, who said I wanted that?
His wife is with him in Tulum.
Yeah.
We do hot seat coaching, and we got one person sitting up on a stool, 5 other people around. You got 2 minutes to state your biggest constraint. Everyone else is going to like cross-examine you for a second, and then the other 5 people are going to talk like you're not in the room, and they're going to solve your problem. And he's talking about, I'm so stressed about getting my wife out. And they're like, okay, cool. Hey, does your wife like her job? And he's like, yeah, she's a nurse. She loves it. Cross-examining, and now all of a sudden everyone starts talking. They're like, this dude's stressed out about his wife quitting her job that she doesn't even want to quit. I don't think he's ever even asked her if she wants to quit.
Yeah.
Afterwards, he goes over and he's like, do you even want to leave your job? She's like, no, I've been telling you this for 6 years. And this guy just was like carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he just goes, oh, now what? Like, dude,
he lost his goal.
Biggest cause of stress for this guy was like trying to retire his wife. Never even asked her. Dude, how many times has that applied in life where you're like, I'm building this business for you. I don't want that.
Yep.
Or for me, I'm like, we're going to go travel the world and we're going to get married, and I'm going to prove to you marriage works. And she's like, I don't want that.
I didn't tell you. I never said
I told you I didn't want it. And dude, we just don't hear what we don't want to hear.
Yep.
And when you just shut up and you listen to like what people are saying to you and what the universe, what God is saying to you, you just go with it. There's a book called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. Wonderful book. And it's just like, I was like, I read it right before all that happened, and it helped me a bunch.
You know, I just realized why you read so much. You're just always traveling.
Damn straight. And I'm single. There's nothing else.
You know,
by
this adds up
myself.
why you read so many books. I get it.
Yeah, and I'm just by myself, bro. I'm out there talking to people, but reading a good book. You know, you don't got a wife to talk to, man.
You have all the time to read
I got all the time in the world, brother. Like, I'm learning Spanish and Portuguese now just because I got so much free time. And then,
This is all making sense to me now as we get deeper.
It checks out.
Keep getting all the layers peeled.
Yeah, but it works. So, I mean, I guess when I get in a relationship, I'm going to just stop reading.
Yeah, you won't have time.
All the quotes are going to be gone. The bank account's going to dry up.
Yeah.
But no, man, it's all about priorities. It's all about priorities. And my priorities have since shifted. And I think like the full embodiment of being a man, like a man is providing for a family.
Yeah.
And so I've got the financial down packed. So now it's just a season of that where it's like, okay, cool. Like,
Yeah. You know what I found too, just to even add more urgency to you?
Dude, throw it at me, man. Misery creates movement, right?
Well, that's what we're talking about, right? So you're projecting out 5 years, right? And you're like, hey, if I continue on this path of always traveling, it's unlikely I really settle down, right?
Bingo.
And you know, I've like I said, I know many of these people who have already traveled that path. What's interesting about it is as you get older and as you achieve more success, it becomes even harder to marry because it's not that you're already desirable. Like you're a good looking guy, you're known, you got wealth, you have everything. 5 years from now, it's actually gonna be harder because you're gonna be older. You're gonna probably have more wealth. You're gonna have all these things, but now it's like the dating pool keeps getting smaller
because there's like nothing that
you just keep getting older.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you can go marry a 25-year-old, but like, or a 20-year-old, but like,
pull a Leo.
You can do whatever you want. But my point is, it's just you're in the sweet zone right now for doing it. It'll be harder when you're 40. It'll be easier when you're 35 than when you're 40. Then it'll be harder when you're 40. Like, it's just going to keep getting harder, right? But on top of that, it really gets hard for two reasons. And this is what I keep, like, it seems like the 35, 40-year-old guys have an epiphany when I bring it up. I'm like, the reason it's going to be harder for you as you get older is like, number one, you've lived for yourself for so long. You don't really even know how to live for somebody else. And as much as we say that we do, we're selfless, you're just not. If you've lived for 35, 40 years on this earth,
do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want all the time. You don't understand sacrifice for other people. Like, you just can't. So for example, like, my mindset is so shaped because I got married really young. And so I had to sacrifice for my wife this entire time of building everything. It's just how I have been. There's just no other way around it. I have to sacrifice for my kids, not like but like just time and doing the things they want to do. If they want to watch TV, like simple things of, my daughter wants to watch this stupid TV show, I have a choice. Do I watch her show or do I watch the game? Like, it's the little things you just don't know. But when for 40 years, you've done whatever you've wanted with no one else ever stopping you, you don't get it. And it's hard to break those habits.
Yeah. For me, it's like the bottlenecks. I'm just completely bullshitting now. No, but like for me, up to this point, the excuses that I've given is like, number one, most of the women have a job.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, well, that takes out the majority because I'm like, well, I want to be able to go travel with somebody and I don't want to have to wait for them to ask for PTO.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, cool. Well, there's a bottleneck right there. Like, all right, great couple of dates, but you're a medical device sales rep. Like, you got to go to work in the morning. And I want to go to Colombia. Like, you can't come with me.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then another one is just like finding someone that speaks your language.
Yeah.
You know, because now it's like, I don't speak a language that most people speak.
Yeah.
And I don't want somebody that's just, you know, like you have a yes man or a yes woman where they're just like, yeah. I want somebody that can actually like engage, you know, and we can have conversations and like, they don't have to be in the business or like real estate or anything, but like intelligence is really important for me and like really understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I found that that's become more difficult as time's progressed.
Well, like what you're describing is like a core value for you and what you want in a person. But like, so I was talking to David Green. So he's, I think, 40.
Oh yeah.
And that podcast was like going viral. Just talking about,
He's red pill.
oh yeah. And
Yeah.
so we talked about a lot of dating stuff, but like he was one of the guys where just like never really occurred to him. But I'm like, bro, you know, at 40 years old now, think about it. Cause like he was describing like his hard thing now is at 40, getting somebody, you know, number one, do you know, like they're trying to be with you for the right reasons? Cause now you have wealth and fame and status and all those things, right? So you now deal with that. The second thing you deal with is this idea of, dude, you've worked your whole life to build this empire, this thing. And then now like somebody else is coming in who didn't help you build any of it. And now they're asking you to do all these things for them. Cause that's what a marriage is about. It's not just you're the king and they're the slave. It's like, no, dude, like we're in this together. And it's really hard because he's like, well, I want somebody who's my equal in a way. And it's like, well, bro, if they're your equal at 40 or 30 or whatever they are, they got their own thing go. You think they're just going to give it up?
Yeah.
You know, like they've built their own. And guess what? They have the same mindset as you. This girl has been providing for herself for 30 years, 35 years, her whole life. She also don't need you.
God, that's attractive though.
So like,
I would be like, all right, come on, let's talk.
yeah. But it's like she learned to provide for herself all these years. And so it's like,
I value independence.
You do until you're married.
Okay, how so? Like I value a woman that is independent. That's like not like that doesn't need to be like I don't know. I like it was a Will Smith quote.
So let's reverse engineer this, right?
Okay.
You got one woman who's already independent. She's got a job, like you mentioned. She's got a career, and then you have another who doesn't. But guess what? The one who doesn't is the one who can actually go do the things with you that you want to do.
Damn it! I see the contradiction.
So what do you really want? Because if you want to go travel and have somebody who's going to take care of your kids, who's going to be a homemaker, who has flexibility, you need somebody who doesn't have that. And you're asking that person to give up everything she's worked her whole life for to give you the thing that you want. And you're back into the Brazilian girls issue again.
And she also has to speak Spanish or Portuguese too. So it's like, oh God. All right.
So it's back to the plan of the rental.
Can we talk about cap rates instead? Like, what the hell is this, dude? Like, yeah, no, I get it. You're preaching.
So that is back to, yeah, I want cash flow and rentals. It's like, do you?
Yeah.
Because have you thought it through about why they would want to actually do that? And yeah, I have a blast talking with the single guys because it just, like, for me, this is why I'm a huge advocate now of everyone getting married young. It's because when you get married young, you don't have all the other problems that come later with trying to date later in life. So there's no status thing. When you get married young, you're both broke.
Yeah.
You're both not working usually. You're in college, you're trying to figure things out. You both are just like, whatever. So there's no, I earned anything in my life at this point. It's all potential in future together. So that happens. The other thing that happens is you learn to have to live for somebody else young. And so you never develop this idea that I did. Like, I don't look at my business and my life and I'm like, I did this. It's like, we did this. I was broke.
Yeah, it's an ego thing. I mean, there's a degree of that. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't. And for the sake of vulnerability and transparency, because my ex and me, like, she was living with me in the basement of my house hack.
Yeah.
You know? So I was just like, all right. Like, I thought that was what it was going to be. I was like, all right, cool. We're building this together. And then that went away. And I was just like, okay, well, now what do I do? Because I'm very public. Like, I'm very out there. People know what I do and my stuff. And I get DMs. Where I say, hey, I'm in Greece. And I get DMs. And I say, hey, I'm in Switzerland. And I get DMs. And I'm in Brazil. And I get DMs. And I'm just like, I don't know. Yeah. So stimulus. I mean, it's not like, I don't want to sit here and complain about this on a podcast. You know? People are like, shut up, dude. Like,
no, I mean, this is what the wealthy way is all about. It's about the all-encompassing of life and wealth. Like, wealth is not just money. It's your relationships, your faith, your health. They're all part of this equation of wealth. And that's why I just bring on such a wide variety of people on the show single guys, married guys, atheists, Christians, alpha red pill guys.
Oh, yeah.
And I just like going back.
I can't take myself there, man. Those ones are rough.
In 5 years, you're going to be a red pill guy.
Ryan, that's the meanest thing you've ever said to me. Delete this now. Absolutely not. I will be happily married with multiple children by that point.
We are, because we're setting the intention right now.
Yeah, I'm going to be a hell of a dad.
And I think that you're going to leave here way more just selfless and like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go out and find me a wife, and I'm going to serve her. She's going to serve me. It's not just about my vision, but we're going to have a co-vision together.
Dude, I will say this, and I'm trying to think about a way for it not to sound weird. And like,
there's nothing weird.
And have an HR complaint. No,
we have no HR.
Dude, running a business is kind of like dating to a degree.
Okay.
Because it's high degrees of intimacy. Yeah. And like, I never realized, I was like, running interviews is like kind of like you're on a freaking date. Like, it's like intimacy, and like you're asking, and you're going through, like, you mentioned that your team is like who you're closest with.
Yep.
That's how I am with my team.
Yep.
And like, if I have something that I can't tell my team, like, I was just going through like a lot of like traumatic like family stuff that I couldn't share with my team, and it felt weird for me, and it felt stressful for me to not be able to share it with my team and have that support system.
Yeah,
my team's half male, half female, and it's just like, to your point of like in the beginning when I was just me and like one of my team members, Caitlin. Like, it was just us running the business. That was easy, because I would just be like, okay, I'm going to do things my way. And now I'm going to do things my way, and I'm going to tell you how to do them.
Yeah.
But now we have like 10 people.
Yep.
And now it's like, that doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah.
Because you have all different personalities, and you have all different. So now you're like, okay, it's not just my show anymore. Now I do have to sacrifice for you. I have to sacrifice for you. I have to work. I have to communicate in the way that you want to be communicated with.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise the message is not going to hit the way I want it to hit.
Yep.
And so,
you're not going to buy in. You're not going to have longevity with them if you're not serving their needs.
And growing that team is what I feel has actually allowed me to evolve into the man that is capable of doing that.
Yeah, I agree. It's very much like that. And then I would say, if your employees are like dating, if you have a partnership, that's marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's legally marriage.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one of them is the equity partner.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I gave her some equity. She deserves it.
She deserves it. And,
she's the community director. She runs everything.
Yeah.
She's like the lifeblood. I'm not the person where it's just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm breaking down. Like, I just lost my self-storage deal, and I'm like losing my mind right now. I'm not really the person you get on the phone with for that.
Yeah.
Oh, she lives for that, dude. She's like, I'm going to send you like flowers. What's your wife's name? What's your wife's name? I'm going to send her something. Like, I'm going to get you like a custom t-shirt or something that you've always wanted. Like, she just bends over backwards for people. And so, yeah, she's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, bro, this was a great conversation. I'm glad we peeled back all the layers and got deep.
We can put them back.
We'll put them back after this. We'll repair them back. But hey, where do people find out more about you, the community, all that stuff?
For sure, yeah. It's just Brian Luebben, Luebben everywhere. And then Action Academy podcast. I actually recommend people go listen to the show, listen to a few episodes. If you guys are still hanging around with me and Ryan at this point, you should probably listen to the show. It's Monday through Friday. Millionaire, billionaire guests. We talk about buying businesses, buying commercial real estate. So if you want to learn how to do that, replace corporate with cash flow, that is our jam. And also, I will repost this so you guys can make fun of me twice about my dating relationships and all that good stuff. So yeah, Action Academy podcast. Check us out there, and just Instagram.
There we go, guys. Go check it out.
Yes,
subscribe.
sir.
We'll see you. Peace.